I don't know about you, but I feel like we've been on a journey, right? We started off, we learned about what SEL is. We looked at some of the arguments against SEL or the things that we need to be careful about when we are implementing SEL in our programs, embedding SEL into our programs. Then we took a look at some resources specific to what we are doing. We made some steps to embed SEL into our programs. And now, in this final module, we're going to reflect on the five core competencies of SEL, and we're going to look at how we can continue to improve and build our skills in each of those 5 areas. Because we know that we cannot help our students build their own SEL skills if we're not also doing that work ourselves. And it's a journey, certainly not a destination. So we're always trying to improve in all of those different areas. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go specifically through the 5 core competencies, similar to what I did in the last video, only instead of focusing on students, in this video, I'm focusing on you. I'm focusing on the music educator. And some of these things may resonate with you and some of them might not, but hopefully by the end of the video and the end of the assignments for this module, hopefully you'll have a good sense of where your strengths are in terms of your own SEL skills and a good plan for some areas that you might want to tackle as you work to constantly improve your own SEL skills. And remember, the reason that we are trying to improve our SEL skills is because that's going to help us to be able to respond better to all the different things that life brings to us, rather than to, which will help us. It's going to help us just to be able to live more productive lives, really. And so I hope that you enjoy this module, and I hope that it's going to be really applicable to what you do. So let's take a look at the 5 core competencies and let's apply them to music educators. Let's see how music educators might be able to continue to work to grow in their SEL skills. All right, so as we look at wanting to do the best we can possibly do to help our students build their SEL skills while they're in our classrooms, the place we have to start is really with ourselves. And so as I designed this class, I thought, I don't know if I want to put this last, but I feel like putting it last makes the most sense in this course, because now we know kind of all the why and why we want to embed SEL into our music classes and what benefits are and kind of how to do it. And now we have maybe more of an impetus to want to foster those good skills in ourselves. I'm going to follow the same format, the same slide layout as I followed in the previous video that was geared toward embedding SEL, for our students. In this one, so you're going to see the same images, the same definitions from Castle in the same 5 core competencies. As we start, we look at self-awareness. Here are some examples that might come up for you. So identifying your actual emotions, like maybe feelings of insecurity when you are modeling on a secondary instrument, maybe singing when it's not your forte, playing the piano, all of those things. So instead of maybe avoiding doing something, that we recognize what really is it that holds us back from wanting to model on the bassoon. Is it that, whatever, we just don't feel like doing it? Or is it that we're afraid that if we model on it, it's not going to go well? So recognizing that. Identifying areas where you could stand to grow. So it might be in things like biases. It might be in areas of pedagogy. Where is it? I talk about the whack-a-mole game a lot in teaching. So, whack-a-mole, the game at the arcade where the little moles come up, and you take the hammer, you whack the mole down. So no matter what you're looking at, it could be a piece of music, it could be all of the secondary instruments, it could be anything. If you look at the aspects, like maybe take for me, if I look at all the secondary instruments that I practice, which one is the worst for me? And whenever I figure out which one's the worst for me, then I practice it more. Whack that mole down. Okay. Now that's not the worst one anymore. So now what's the worst one? Okay. So identifying where it is in what no matter how much where could you make the most improvement in an area? Knowing what you do well, that's important too, because sometimes that can mean maybe you're going to be a mentor to some other folks because of something that you do really well. Maybe you're going to write an article on what it is that you do well, or just knowing it, just knowing like, I am good at this, and just being happy about that. Knowing your triggers, do you get hangry? Are you not a morning person? How do you handle the stress of concert season? Or how do you handle difficult faculty meetings when you know you're going to go in, it's going to be a hard meeting. What types of realities do you face in terms of like what gets you? And that way you're able to figure out next steps, like, well, how am I going to handle that? Right? Because we can't be mean in the morning because we're not a morning person, right? So what are we going to do there? And then practicing self-compassion, giving yourself grace, you don't have to be perfect at everything, right? Giving yourself that compassion. People talk to yourself the way you would talk to somebody else if you were your friend, right? So like if I were my friend, how would I talk to my friend? Okay. Self-management, processing emotions experienced at work in a healthy way. So there are going to be disappointments. You're going to have bad leadership at times, right? And so, what can we do about that? When we have, should we quit? Maybe. I mean, that might be the right answer, but that might not be the right answer. There are different ways, and we have to make sure that we're processing what's happening in a healthy way. We have to make sure we're using healthy strategies to manage stress, because stress is part of life. It's part of our jobs, right? And it's going to be part of, even outside of jobs, it's going to be part of life. We have to make sure that we're managing that healthfully. Taking time to work hard in professional development to improve in an area where you're weak. So, for example, if you're afraid to model on bassoon because you feel insecure about it, maybe that means it's a good chance maybe to take some time in the summer, and maybe you do take a few bassoon lessons, or maybe, something like that, so that you can feel more confident on that instrument, or whatever it is. Maybe it's taking piano lessons or voice lessons or something, so that you can be better at that, because you're capable of learning, right? Sometimes I think we look at life and we say, oh, okay, well, I didn't learn that already, so I guess I'll just never know it. Well, no, I mean, we can continue to learn and continue to develop. But we have to understand, with our self-awareness, what do we need to work on? And then with our self-management, what steps can we take to make that happen? Setting personal and professional goals. I think that goes right into the next one, which is establishing and maintaining boundaries between work and non-work. So we have professional goals. There are things that we want to accomplish. And maybe we want to do a presentation for a conference, or maybe we want to write a piece of music, or, whatever it is. We can set goals for how we're going to reach some of those professional goals. We have to make sure that we're also taking care of our personal goals. And, some things that I did during the pandemic that I've kept: turning off the ringer on my email. That's gone. That disappeared during the pandemic and it didn't come back. I never have had email alerts on my phone for work, or for any emails. But I've even started to, if it's a time when I'm not supposed to be working, I changed my tab for my work email to just a google.com. And then I don't see it. It's not there. It doesn't exist. We have to make sure that we're taking time to have those boundaries between work and our non-work life, because in this type of work, we could work all the time, right? And we know that. And advocating for your personal needs and the needs of the program or programs under your direction. So, what do you need to be successful, and what does your program need to be successful, and advocating for those. Social awareness. This would be maybe balancing resources with other programs or other teachers. That can be difficult. Like maybe it's the auditorium, the stage, maybe it's piano, maybe it's a computer lab with music technology type stuff in it, or any number of things. It can actually be even the humans in your ensemble, right? Maybe they go to choir on every other day and band on the opposite days, and we are balancing and sharing, right? Expanding your understanding of the perspectives of others, whether it's cultures, LGBTQ+, religions, race, ethnicity, any of those things. I think those are, we're never going to know it all. So I would start with your students. Are there students, is there a student of a religion that you don't know anything about? Maybe you get a book or an article or podcast or something, you try to learn a little bit more about that student. Or maybe you're not familiar a lot with LGBTQ plus students, or maybe one aspect, maybe trans. And so you want to maybe learn a little bit more about that. That's going to help you be a better teacher. Okay. And so expanding your understanding there is really important. Understanding the discrimination that's faced by your colleagues, students, staff, community members, all of that. Trying to learn more about the discrimination that they face, because you only know your own perspective in life. If you just go around with your own self and your own, however you experience the world, when we're trying to move to be able to empathize with other folks, we have to try to understand more about what they face. And that involves keeping your eyes and your ears and everything open, and having good conversations with people. Along those similar lines, what's most concerning to your colleagues, to your students, to your community, and understanding how you might fit into that, or be able to help in that area. And then advocating for others, even when it's challenging. So we all know, if you want to side with the person who has the power, right? So that you keep having power. But sometimes that doing the right thing might mean advocating for somebody when it's going to be challenging, and it's going to put you in opposition of maybe your best friend at work, or maybe the leader who makes the decisions, or something like that. But doing the right thing, is important to do. Relationship skills, making time for the important relationships in your life, both at work and at home. So I think getting to know your colleagues is important, and taking time to foster those work relationships, because you spend an awful lot of time and years with those people, and it's important. They're going to be important people in your life. Like, you watch your colleagues' children grow up, or you see as they encounter different challenges in their lives, and you're part of that. But also making sure that you have time for your relationships at home, and you have to keep all of that in balance, and that's tricky. Fostering a welcoming environment for everyone, making sure that all the students are going to feel welcome in your class, and continuing, all of these things we continue to learn about ourselves and how welcoming we are to other people. Asking for help when you need it, and helping other people when you can is important. And then letting people get to know you. And I think that's one aspect. When I went through a music education program a long time ago, we talked a lot about that barrier between, the teachers over here, the students are over there. They don't need to know about you. You don't need to know about them. You're just here to teach the music. That is vastly different today. And now it's like your students want to know you, but you also have to understand, like, there is still a line, right? That you don't cross. But helping in making sure that your students do get to know you, that your colleagues get to know you, your secretary, the custodian, all the people, that they get to know you too. And that's going to help with relationships. Making good decisions, deciding how to approach budgeting of resources or time, both at home and at work. Lots and lots of examples of how that could happen. Being open-minded about new approaches to education. So maybe SEL is one of them. We have a lot of, I always tell the freshmen in the Intro to Music Ed class, there are going to be things that are going to be a thing when you graduate that aren't a thing now. But we don't know what they are yet, right? And they might only last a year, and then they go on to something else. So we always have those things. Being open-minded about them and trying to take from them what is positive is good. Advocating for policies and practices that are respectful and welcoming to everyone. So that could be with your whole district, depending on where your district is. There may be district-wide policies that you may realize a policy is not respectful to all people. Like sometimes there are hair codes that are like your hair can only be so long, or can't be certain styles or whatever, that might be disrespectful to certain cultures. In music, we might look at something like, what does the choir wear? And maybe, or the band, whatever ensemble. And you might have had before, boys wear tuxedos, girls wear the long black dresses. And now we look for something that's maybe more inclusive, like maybe just everyone wear black. Or maybe it's something like, we're going to do something more casual, like everyone wear jeans and here's the t-shirt that we're all going to wear, or something like that. So that students who don't identify as male or female, or as boys or as girls, aren't put in a perspective of having to say like, okay, well, I guess I'll dress like this today. That they actually are honored in terms of what that policy is. Using your power to advocate for others, that's important. And especially as you become an older teacher and maybe you might move into positions that are more powerful. You might become your department chair or, leaders in your professional organization, looking for opportunities that you can pull other people in and you can give them opportunity. Being a team player, not making everyone else do the work, but also knowing when to say no and knowing when you've reached the point where you cannot do more things and still do them well. As we move on to next steps, because this is the end of this class, things that you want to do: continue to strengthen your own SEL competencies. Continue to explore resources. Like, you might want to go back to the Music and Social Emotional Learning podcast series and listen to more episodes of it, something like that. Continually look for ways to embed SEL in your program. And maybe the most important thing is to take small steps. So people talk about small teaching, and that's just making like one little change. You don't have to, every class doesn't have to be, blanketed with SEL the next time you teach, but you can take small steps. And if every 9 weeks or every semester or every year, you make a few more small changes over the course of time, those will build up and you'll see a lot of positive impacts, I'm sure. And as we close out this last video, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking this class. I believe in this. I think this is very, very important work. And I'm grateful that you've taken time out of your busy schedule to do this important work. So thanks for being here. And if I can ever be of assistance to you in the future as you do this work or other work in music education, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks.